Braveheart Workshops, inspiring connection. Restore. Dream. Getaway experiences. Love, live, and laugh. With Braveheart Workshops. Live now with Jill Reynolds.
Restore, renew, and reconnect in community. Sponsored by Braveheart Workshops, live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today from California is Alana de la Cruz. Welcome to the show, Alana.
Hi, Jill. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we are honored to have you on our show as a guest, and I would love the audience to know just a little bit about you, so that they're aware of your bio. Alana de la Cruz grew up in a small southern Illinois town. In grammar school, she performed on a large stage with her dance classmates in a ballet recital, her first taste of performing before an audience. The exhilaration of the experience planted a seed in Alana's heart that left her yearning for more. Alana had a passion for singing that grew stronger, proving that singing was her natural, God-given talent. After receiving a college music scholarship, Alana pursued music and vocal performance as a minor at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Alana was selected to perform the National Anthem for the largest audience that she'd performed before of 6,000 people during the university's Pack the Hall Orange. Alana is currently working on writing a screenplay based on her life story and how she twice escaped and overcame domestic abuse. Endeavoring to turn her past pain into her passionate purpose, Alana also speaks for women's conferences, using her testimony of triumph to help empower other women to discover their real value and have a healthy self-image. Alana played Atina in the theatrical production of Disney's The Little Mermaid Musical, and the lead role, Sandra, in the Nifty Fifties Show in Branson, Missouri. That experience kindled a passion for working with children, leading her to start her own children's entertainment company called Alana's Princess Parties in Los Angeles. Most recently, Alana began a Christian-based personal development business for women called SOLWIN Success Academy. The business aims to encourage women who have come out from the fiery trials and tribulations of abuse, divorce, and loss to discover who they are truly called to be in God and the resilient strength they didn't know they had. The Diamond Survivor is called to go and shine brightly in the world. In January of 2021, Alana's internet TV platform, SOLWIN Channel, will premiere on ROKU. I can never say that right. ROKU TV. ROKU, which is what my son has. He's got ROKU. So what a wonderful, amazing lady you are of God. And I'd love the audience to hear just a little bit more in your words about that little girl growing up in a small town and what that was like, and share a little bit about that story with the audience and bring us towards the date of today.
Yeah, so as you know, I grew up in a very small town. I call it Cornville, Illinois. Just lots and lots of corn surrounding me where I grew up, and we actually had just one stoplight and one big Walmart, and that was pretty much it. But I grew up in, just an amazing, loving family. I was raised Catholic and had, such great influence in my life. I'm the oldest of five, and I feel like I play like a pretty incredible role in my younger siblings' life as well, and trying to recruit them and trying to get them involved in arts and entertainment as much as I loved arts and entertainment, and it didn't go very well. in their favor. But anyways, yeah. So I grew up, had a wonderful childhood. Nothing very very phenomenal, I guess, that really happened during that time. I had an amazing childhood. No big complaints. I would say I was blessed to have incredible parents that, taught me, just to be a hard worker and always cheered me on as a child. Into high school is probably when I really discovered just my love, started developing my love for the arts, and got involved in theater, got involved in band, got involved in color guard, and even drumline. I didn't play the drums, but I was in the front playing the xylophones, and just had incredible memories there, and definitely helped form me as the artist that I am today.
So then you went off to college.
Yes, and then off to college. So in my college years, I struggled, because it was something in me that was really holding back. I didn't have any of the confidence whatsoever to sing. I could sing so much, like privately in the privacy of my own room, but for me to get in front of people, that was, oh my gosh, it was too much for me. It gave me palpitations just thinking about it back then. So I, gradually, I'd sing in groups, in theater, I would, do musicals, but I would always be in the background. As long as I was singing in a group, on stage, I was okay. But for me to become, a soloist, no. But everything changed because I got a music scholarship. I was pursuing music even as a minor, and I just had incredible teachers, and they completely believed in me, and just basically threw, solo arias at me and said, "Hey, guess what? You're going to be the soloist for our Christmas special." Like, oh, isn't there an audition? There should be a chance for others. But, that's when I really started to think, hey, okay, maybe there's something to this. And and as you do, that's how you start gaining your confidence. So I sang, I sang a solo in Handel's Messiah. And I remember being the biggest, kind of, I don't know, tipping point for me, where I actually, oh, okay, I'm finally a singer, and I could kind of start really identifying myself as a singer at that point.
So then they selected you to sing the national anthem at the football game.
Yes, and that was actually by audition. So I submitted my CD, and they had multiple others that obviously were auditioning for this particular event, Pack the Hall Orange at the U of I, and they have there's so many different sporting events, and I had applied for, there was not the men's basketball, but the women's basketball, and I ended up getting it. And what's incredible is that there was something about performing in a large arena that this sounds crazy, but I actually feel more comfortable, even still to this day, I feel more comfortable in a huge arena of people in singing, as opposed to being, close one-on-one, which I had that opportunity when I was in Branson. I was singing as a singing server in Mel's Harlow Diner. That was a whole different experience. So that was another hurdle for me to get over. But yeah, I definitely felt much more at peace singing to huge crowds.
Well, I think the differential is when you're with a huge crowd, you really can't see eye contact. So you're really not making that one-on-one eye contact. Where when it is a smaller scale type of thing, like you're a server and you're looking at the people and they're looking right at you, it's a whole different intimidation. But I think when you're like on a stage and you can maybe see a couple people in the audience, or you might catch a few gazes, you're not like even with Zoom. I think a lot of people, when COVID hit, they were like, oh, I don't think I can do a Zoom because I'm looking right at people. And and it's so different, I think, than being in a huge crowd. So take us then to your first. Then I believe you and I shared a little bit before our interview, that you had some domestic abuse that came into your life. And so now, did that come in college before moving to Branson then, or when did that begin? Was that right around college time?
So definitely, it definitely happened. It's kind of scattered. So it did happen prior to college, and then even after. So because it was two. So I'm a two-time survivor of domestic violence, and a very, very unfortunate series of events that happened. But yes, also prior to me moving to Branson as well.
So take us on that journey if you're comfortable. You don't have to go into detail because you are going to be speaking in Branson, sharing your story. So take us just on that beginning road of what your life was going through, maybe your self-worth, and how this relationship went into fruition that turned into a domestic violence relationship.
Yeah. So when it goes back to even towards the last few years of high school, I really, I would say the very tail end of high school, I had been struggling with just issues in the home and just trying to really get along with parents. So I think that that really was affecting my self-esteem, and I was, because I was always trying, and this is what I wrote in the book, actually, in my chapter was, I had this sense I was such a perfectionist really in high school, and I had already by age 16-year plan written out for what I was going to do after high school. And, it just didn't pan out. And it was something that, let's go back. So I had been dating someone long distance and fell madly in love with him. And it lasted for about a year and a half, but it was like a fairy tale. I mean, really, it was like the love letters, because this was back, I'm dating myself now, but it was back before, we were actually doing snail mail letters and cards and flowers, and it was so beautiful. And when after the first semester of college began and he had ended it, then that's when I started spiraling into a pretty deep, dark depression. And then the tensions happening at home too on top of it were just compounding. So it ended up turning from depression into major depression into suicidal thoughts and tendencies. So I ended up leaving home at the ripe old age of 18. And, soon after that, the 10-year span, I called it the 10-year dark storm that happened in my life, that was where the abuse had happened, and I let that enter in, unfortunately. Women that go into abusive situations, it's never like, hey, yeah, I want that abuser. It's never that way. I think women who are survivors, they would tell you, like, there was something charismatic about that person. There was something that was very charming and very, in the beginning, it's like they were saying all the right things. And, just the minute after, you say I do or you commit, it's like all of a sudden they switch on you. And that facade that they were putting on for you, suddenly you see that true monster, really.
Yeah, so as you were sharing, I find it interesting as I interview people. I love listening and then kind of going back and connect. I love to connect dots, Alana. So as you began your conversation growing up in this perfect family, Catholic family, everybody's loving everything, and then all of a sudden you're in your teens and things start changing a bit at home. And so one of the things that I learned, and it's a profound analogy that a therapist shared with me. My son is now 38, so when he was in his 20s, and she took out a whiteboard, and on the whiteboard she wrote the letter P and the letter C, and then the letter A and the letter A, so PCAA. And she said when we have children and they're growing up, we as parents need to keep that relationship as a parent-child relationship, not a parent-friend, but a parent-child relationship until they turn 18. And so as parents have children and they're raising them, we don't have guidebooks. And so we make lots and lots of mistakes, even in that perfect family home. And being the oldest of 5, Catholic family, I can envision that the control starts coming on the parents as you're beginning adolescence and going into that 16 and the 17, and the reins are getting stronger and stronger in the control. And as a child, I think God's created us to learn how to then start to break away from that parental bonds at 18. And what we all should be doing at 18 is learning how to leave home. Because you said you left at 18. And that is a normal thing to do for an 18-year-old, is to leave the parental home. At 18 then, as you leave, then the parents have to learn how to establish an adult to an adult relationship, not an adult to best friend, not an adult to child, but an adult to an adult. And how that looks for a parent, if you're listening in, parents, is when my son went off to college at 18, he would come home for Christmas or the holidays or spring break or whatever. And as he would walk into our home, my husband and my home, he would come home, 10-hour drive from Kansas, drop his bags at the front door, and either A, if it was late at night, walk into the family room, grab the remote, and change the TV channel to what he wanted to watch, which was sports. We could be right in the middle of a movie, and he would do this. And I would be dumbfounded. Or he'd get in the afternoon, grab my keys and say, "Can I have the car?" and go out with his friends and stay out for 2 or 3 days. And here I'd be looking forward to seeing him. He'd arrive home, and then he'd be gone. So that's how this conversation began. So what my therapist said, redo your boundaries and teach them an adult to adult. So what we did is we set boundaries that, hey, would you be doing this walking into your girlfriend's home? Would you grab her parents' remote, change the channel? He goes, no. And I said, then you won't do it in our home either. And what we'll do is when you come in town, you could have my car for 3 days or 2 days if he was staying for, let's say, a week, and then come back. And then for those 3 to 4 remaining days, we get you your undivided attention so that we can connect. And so that worked out really well. And I switched saying that you're home for Christmas and saying you're coming to visit us because this is no longer your home. So I set a boundary and I changed it that this was his home to this was our home. I said, no, you left home at 18. So when you come to visit us, you're visiting our home. And this is no longer your home. And that changed the dynamics quite a bit. So I would envision as you were this 16, 17-year-old and that parental like push, pull, push, pull, push, pull is coming on. And at that point, you just said, I've had enough. I want to be independent and go on my own. And
Most definitely.
yeah, and so at that level, then you leave. And I think without having that real good, and most of us as parents, like I said, like I told you, when I did this, when my son left, I had no clue how to be a mom once he left to go to college. But I think as we learned this, and as your parents probably went through this, all of a sudden that loving, kind, wonderful family you grew up in, you started having this tension, and then all of a sudden you get into a relationship with a guy and then take off, and then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, I don't have my antennas up for what's a good relationship and what's a bad. And so then this relationship takes off. So take us now to that first abusive relationship and what that looked like.
Yeah. So I had went across. I literally packed up my, and I didn't have bags even. I mean, I'm 18. I don't have any luggage. I packed up boxes and used the last of my savings, and I flew across to the West Coast. So I ended up first. It was in Washington State, and yeah, and I ended up moving in with this guy. I really didn't know, other than just, on phone calls, that, we had been communicating. And I honestly, when I was there in the plane, I had a layover in LA, and I'm like, maybe this isn't a good idea. I have some friends here in LA. Maybe I better just get off right now, because this is really crazy. And I'm 18. So my other friends, they're the same age, 17, 18. I can't just move into their homes too. It's like they don't have their own places. So I really didn't have anywhere to go. This gentleman, he was about 7 years older than me. So yeah. So then from there, we ended up moving to California, and then that's when I shortly thereafter, we actually eloped, because he had a grandmother that didn't believe in, living with somebody, but, you're not married. So we eloped, and it kind of was sort of making sense in my mind, because I needed, federal aid to go to college, and, health insurance, and all these adult things. And but I will say that shortly after, when I started discovering other things about him, and it was, I wouldn't say that he wasn't verbally abusive to me. It was a different form, because he took on, he had a very deep, dark porn addiction, and I didn't know about it. But, once I came into discovery of that, later down the line, fast forward like 5 years, and he's trying to prostitute me out to other wealthy men. That's when I said, okay, I have morals, for the most part, as a Catholic young lady, that I don't want to divorce. And there was very little divorce in my family. I didn't, my parents were still married and happily married, and I just didn't see that. So I was fighting that, but at the same time, that was my breaking point. So I had this incredible experience. For the first time, I heard the audible voice of God. And he literally told me, I remember falling asleep, and it was shortly after this indecent proposal was given to me. I went to sleep. I had a nightmare. I was falling into what I believe was hell. I was falling, and it was this just deep blackness. And I couldn't, it was one of those dreams, like those nightmares where you couldn't, I was trying to wake up. I was falling, and I was trying, in my dream, trying to get up out of it. I woke up, my pillow, my whole bed sheet, everything was full of sweat. And as soon as I woke up, and at the same time, I heard the audible voice of God telling me, leave, get out now. And it was so big. And I thought the whole city could hear it. And I jumped up and I started writing a goodbye letter to, we'll call him Ted. And goodbye, Ted. And packed up my suitcases. I hopped on the next Greyhound bus. I didn't have my own car. Well, I think he had my car. And I hopped on a Greyhound bus to the next, to LAX airport, and off I went. And I said, okay, I'm out. So that was, God trying to protect me, and he saved me. And it's so crazy, how many times, and that's just one time, but there was so many times, obviously, along the line where the hand of God was protecting me, despite me not even living for the Lord yet. He was just constantly protecting me. Yeah.
So then when you left Ted, as you will call him, and you got on the plane to LA, is that when you went back to Illinois then and went to to college at Champaign?
Yes. So I had started school. I was trying to start school back in California as well. So I transferred over to Illinois. Yeah.
So then so you were at college then in Champaign. I would assume you got your degree there. And then when you graduated college, is that when you ended up moving to Branson, or how did you end up in Branson?
So I ended up, it was a little bit of a detour even after that, but one of the most important things that happened when I was in Champaign, it was completely God ordained. I crossed paths with, I started working at a hotel front desk, and there was this young lady young woman who had invited me to her church, and she kept on me, and I finally said yes. And then lo and behold, it was a Pentecostal church. And I've never been anywhere near a Pentecostal church. I had only been going to Catholic Mass. But when I went, I could not believe just the incredible peace of God and the presence of God that was in that service. And I was so touched by God. And even just in the beginning and in the worship service. And I had never seen anything like it in my whole life. It was so beautiful. Everyone's raising up their hands, and they're actually outwardly worshiping God and singing. And, the Lord started drawing me in. I felt so dirty in my heart. I felt so exposed, but yet it was like this exposure, but yet it was tremendous, overwhelming love that was like wrapped all around me. He was exposing it, but yet there's so much love that comes around that exposure. And I remember they did an altar call, and I ran up and received the Lord. I received him in my heart. And later on, after that, this young gal, I'll call her Katie, she ended up inviting me to the evening service, which was specifically for the college kids. And I was like, church twice in a day, I don't do that, But I went ahead, and thank God I did, because in the second service then, the youth pastor was preaching, and it was literally a message that was just for me. And I remember this feeling like this pull, this tug on me to come up. And I was like, I already did this. I did this in the morning. Why do I have to go up again? But this time he was calling for those who wanted to receive the baptism of the Holy Spirit. And I, in my ears, in my Catholic ears, you think baptism, I think water baptism, right? I was like, oh, I already did that when I was a baby, but I don't see any water. And so I was really kind of confused, but I just kept feeling this tug, this pull to go up to the front again. And I'm like, okay, I'll do this again, I guess. And it was almost irresistible, couldn't even resist it. So I was pulled up to the front, had all of these, prayer warriors come around me from the congregation, and they're laying their hands on my shoulders, and this incredible like glory, just I call it his glory cloud. And if you would, like, like an anointing oil that just fell on me. It just completely fell on me from the top of my head, and it just like melted on me like butter, like just melted on me, and all the way down to my toes. And then I fell to the ground and was filled with the Spirit, utterance in other tongues. So and the most important thing too was that the depression, the suicidal thoughts, the unworthiness, it was gone like that, Jill. Just gone. Like the joy, the unspeakable joy just filled me up, and to the point where I remember walking around and I couldn't get the smile wiped off of my face. Even the other churchgoers there is like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, I just got this thing that you guys preach here. I don't, baptism of the Holy Spirit. I said, and I didn't even, I knew the impact that it had on me, but I really didn't know, like, the tremendous, like, it was just so absolutely life-changing for me and so vital for me.
Mm-hmm.
To have that experience, Jill, in order for me to be equipped for even what was ahead in my life. Because, just because we become Christian, we surrender our hearts to the Lord, we get filled with the Holy Spirit and all that, it doesn't mean that, those trials and tribulations stop. We all know that. So it was just so important for me to have that. And
you were being
joy.
Prepared to have the full armor of God for the trials that were still yet to come. So
yeah.
So take us then, just shortly, because we want to leave stuff for the audience to get to come to see you, to hear.
It's true.
So shortly, to take you then from that to where you ended up next. So you're in this realm, and then school, you're graduating college, and what's your next step in life that occurs out of college?
Unfortunately, I stepped into, well, let me back it up. I had actually gotten into a relationship that was so pure, so holy. It was, one of the purest relationships. I will say that God had given me this supernatural grace to remain abstinent for like 3.5 years until I had gotten remarried, which I'm getting to. But during that time, I had dedicated my life to the Lord, and that if there was anybody that was going to be with me, then He would understand that that's where I stand. And I was dating this gentleman, and he, it was, like I said, it was just pure, holy, didn't kiss, didn't even hold hands, and we were engaged, but then he ended up calling it off. He was having struggles of his own, but it did absolutely crush me, because I will say this, when you come from a background of, where you had like certain, like I said, you just had these certain ideas of, what your life, your 10-year plan is going to look like. I was like, okay, well, but I'm ready now. I've been ready. I've been off course. And in that time period, it was so beautiful. The Lord ended up sharing with me what His actual original blueprint plan was. His plan was for me during that time. And He had even exhorted me and told me, don't get off track. What did I do? Jill, I got off track. Oh, Lord, all these things that we do. And so after that, he had called off that engagement, I had met another man on the internet, and I will tell all the ladies, you know what, just don't meet anyone on the internet. I've just had bad experiences. So anyways, and had quickly, it was just a complete head spinning, just, quick courtship that I got myself into. And now this one was, the first one was abusive in a way where he was sexually exploiting me. This one was the verbal, the physically, emotionally abusive person that was a nightmare. And that marriage was about 9 months. I say that I escaped him. I didn't just leave him, I escaped him. So, what I will say is that, number one, don't, I know some people find love on the internet, but don't go to the internet as it's your first place. But secondly, when you're dating, always use your resources to your advantage. So what I had found out later was that he had about a stack this high of, when I went to the police department, and I asked for his report, like what they had on file on George, let's just call him George. And George's file was like an inch thick. It handed me that file, and I was like, this is all public record. It's public record.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was something that I just didn't investigate.
You were blinded. And I think the other thing too, they say this in AA. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and they say in AA that you shouldn't date anyone for 12 months when you get clean and sober. And they said don't date for 12 months, and then in 12 months, in that 12 months time, either get an animal or a plant. And if you can keep the plant or the animal alive for 12 months, then you might be ready then to date. And to me, what happened, it sounds to me what happened is you were on the rebound after your heart was broken for the man that you were madly in love with, that you thought God had brought to you when that relationship ended, and you rebounded. And you probably needed that 1 year of just self-discovery of who you were and what God's plan was, and you jumped right into it to heal that wound instead of having that wound, it was wide open.
Yeah, he was definitely playing as a Band-Aid, and I think that, there was a couple other things there that the enemy was lying to me about that kind of pushed me in that direction. But I definitely see that it's like one of those things, like it threw me a curveball. And yet, when I had married him, the Lord had spoken to my heart and said, I remember very vividly, I was in the shower and Holy Spirit said, this is day one. And then I was like, day one? And then telling me, your days are numbered in this marriage. I was like, I just married this person. So already, and here's the thing, you want to seek the Lord. It says, what God has joined together, let not man put asunder. Let God join you with somebody. In this case, like you said, more of a rebound, Band-Aid to my soul. I had soul wounds that I did not address and needed to have the Lord really. And you can fool yourself into thinking that you're healed. You can fool yourself into saying, no, but I'm ready. No, really, I'm ready. And it's really only the time, if you can really go through like that 1 year and commit yourself. Okay, 1 year, I need to heal from this, because in admitting and taking ownership, maybe for the wrong choices and for your own mistakes, but also taking that time to truly forgive and go through that I call it like an onion layer process. Forgiveness is not just, okay, I forgive them. That's a start. By acting my will, Father, I forgive so-and-so. Well, that's a start. But
and I think another thing that I'm hearing too, and I think it's so important to have either those family members and or good friends who we really entrust our lives with and to have a benchmark with those and say, hey, I want you to meet this person. This is what I'm intending to do, because I think what you had told me, that you dated only for a month or two before you married this person. So I think having someone who you entrust, mother, father, sister, siblings, best friend, and going to that person with this person that you're dating to say, this is my intentions. Can you tell me what you think of this person? Ask them questions. Give me your true feelings. Do you feel like this is someone I should be with and this is what we're thinking about doing already, is getting married? And listening, because I really believe, I know this for my own sake. My sister, who's now passed away from cancer, she just passed away in September, had two really bad first marriages. One was an alcoholic who was very verbally abusive to her, and the second was someone who came into her life shortly after he died, and he ended up adopting her children, and 17 years into their marriage, having an affair with a woman who actually he met on a mission trip and leaving my sister. And so I remember when she introduced me to the second guy, and because I didn't really, the first man she was married to, she really, it wasn't like, oh, here's the guy I'm dating, what do you think? But the second guy I knew, and right off the bat, Alana, I did not like him. Like right off the bat, I did not like
Really?
him. I did not think he'd be good for her. There was something about him I just did not trust. But I held back. As a sister, I thought, oh, it's not my business. I shouldn't say. For all you guys listening, sisters, brothers, it is your business. If you love your siblings and friends, if you love your friends, it is your business to say to that friend, you know what, I really love you, and I'm just not getting a good feeling about this person. Because I think many times we just don't say anything because we don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings because they say they like them. But man, you could be really helping to stop a disaster from occurring if you get a red flag. Because sometimes the person they're so blinded by their own whatever's going on, they don't know, and they almost need somebody else as an accountability partner to say, this does not look like a good relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I 100,000% agree with you. I did have people in my life, elders. I had a pastor of the church I was attending at the time. I feel like, and it's not just having their opinion, it's having their unbiased opinion. And what I mean by that is that I am completely open. I want to hear what they have to say, but I don't want, there can't be like maybe perhaps, an ulterior motive on their end to keep me, because it's kind of a story. Maybe I'll just get into it later, but I remember, approaching my parents with, the second abuser, and it was like, oh, how'd you meet him? Well, we don't even, oh, you met him on the internet. We don't even want to know his name. Now, I wanted their counsel. I mean, I kept on wanting to talk to them more about it. And for me, it's, again, circling back, it's that transferring from the P and C kind of relationship to the A and A.
Yeah.
And they were just, treating me again like a child.
Yeah, and you don't need judgment. When you're going to someone and you're saying, I'd like you to give me your feedback because I really trust you and want to. It's not this judgment of saying, oh, you met him on the internet, he's got to be garbage. Because, there's, I happen to know someone who's like a musician and a famous musician who met their wife on the internet, Harmony. And I mean, these guys are madly in love, and their relationship is so, like, God brought these two together. Like, it's unequivocal. They were brought together. And so just because you meet someone on the internet doesn't mean they're going to be bad. And so it could just have been to me, like, if you were my friend when this happened, I would have said, wait, a month is not enough. Wait, do some checks and balances, and see what's going on. But a month is way too soon. Way too soon. And then going into another relationship from the first one ending to the second one. But because of time, I want to transition here for just a moment. And I want to pause here just so the audience knows your bio. So I'm going to go onto the screen for just about her. But I want to pause here for time's sake and to just kind of let the audience know how we met. Alana and I met through a wonderful woman, Elizabeth Clamon, who is an author and speaker, and she does anthology books, collaborative books, where she brings together different authors and they put together this collaborative book. And the next one coming out is called Fiercely Faithful, and how the people in the book have overcome difficulties like Alana's difficulties with the domestic abuse in the very dysfunctional 2 marriages she had been in, and how God's brought her through the fires of these 2 things in her life that were really damaging with fierce faithfulness. And I need some water. Sorry, guys. My throat is closing. Sorry about that. So she's going to be in this book, and it is being released on Amazon in December as an ebook for only $1. And then the hardcover is coming out in January. And then she is coming to Branson to be at the King's Castle, which is a theater in Branson, to share her story live on the stage. And so I don't want her to finish the story because I really want you guys to come and hear what God's done in the rest of her life. And her story is amazing. And so we're hoping you'll join us in Branson, Missouri in February 5th through 7th. And also, I have a show called The Connection Show Zoom Gathering that meets on Wednesday nights. And many times the people who I interview come onto that show and you get to know them and connect with them more. So I'm hoping that you'll join us on Wednesday evening. And if Alana is ever free from California, that she could join us. It starts on her time zone. It's 5 o'clock p.m. till 6:30 on Wednesday nights. Jump on The Connection Show. And Alana, at this point, I really do want, maybe just take a moment or two to say your goodbyes, but I want to pause you because there's so much more to your story to encourage people to come out and hear. So with a closing, what would your closing thoughts be to the audience today?
I would say, especially in these times that really, endeavor to seek the Lord and about what your true purpose and divine calling is right now. It's so imperative. We are living in, the most glorious times, although, we look at the world around us and we think it's the opposite. No, God is doing great things in the earth right now, and you want to be a part. So, press in, seek God, what it is that he has planned for you, what his original blueprint is. It says in the word that, he is already, he's written all our days in a book in heaven before he even sent us to earth. So it's so important for you to discover what that is and really press into that and go after it with all your heart and love the Lord with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And you're gonna definitely tackle so many things, and you're gonna overcome so many different obstacles and anything that the enemy throws in your way today and, for all the rest of your time here on the earth.
Well, those are glorious statements. And everyone, too, just to know, we're sharing our stories with you for the sole purpose of you being able to know that we all are fearlessly faithful when we come to Christ, and that every single story, your story, our story, matter to each other and to God. So come out in February and hear these amazing author stories, and then we're going to have time for breakout time for you to talk and get to know others. Some amazing praise and worship that we'll have, and we're hoping Alana will get on stage and join praise and worship with us. So you might be able to even hear her amazing voice. And then we'll end on Sunday on the on the 7th, with ending with communion on a Sunday. So we hope that you'll come out. And Alana, I just look forward to seeing you in Branson and getting to know you further. And so at this point, we're going to sign off from the Connection Show and wish all of you a wonderful day. Thanks so much, Alana.
Thank you for having me, Jill.
All right. Take care, dear. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Connection Show. Let's connect now. We can dream together to renew, restore, and reconnect with wellness in our life and community. To enhance connection, join us in the Zoom Connection Gathering Tribe on Wednesday evenings. The Zoom Connection Gathering Tribe is an easy and practical way for everyone to meet up, gather, and feel welcomed and accepted. To join us, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Then click on the podcast tab and the Zoom Connection Tribe tab. On that page, go to the Facebook page called the Connection Show Gathering Tribe and register to join our Facebook group. We post secure passwords each week in the group so you can log in safely. We meet on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for 1.5 hours with great topics, laughter, and connection. See you on Wednesday evenings. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.